2023 is almost here, and it's shaping up to be an absolutely colossal year for video games. Hey there, friends, it's Kodiak here. Welcome to Legacy Gaming. Today, we're diving into 13 huge games that could shape the video game landscape in the new year. Right out of the gate, we have a heavy hitter with Dead Space, a remake of the 2008 classic. It's been over a decade since fans have had an adventure in this universe, and the EA and Motive team decided, you know what? 2023 is the time. The game won't simply be a reskin with modern graphics. They've said they're taking cues from Capcom remaking Resident Evil 2 and 3 and decided it was time to breathe some new life into this series. What's cool is that the remake doesn't simply mean a one-to-one copy, and in this case, the developers are reworking some core gameplay systems, such as the Alive system, to be more immersive and helpful to the player, as well as tweaking some other aspects of the game to fit within the modern landscape of video games. While I'm not the biggest fan of the horror genre, mainly because I'm a chicken, I'm excited for players who have been waiting to step back into this world. As long as EA and Motive don't stray too far from what made the original game so great, I think this is as close to a slam dunk as it gets. It's hard to talk about a 2023 hype list without talking about Hogwarts Legacy. This game, originally intended for a 2022 release, was pushed back to February 10th to give the developers time to polish. Hogwarts Legacy is the first AAA Harry Potter game in quite some time, but the developers aren't beholden to Harry, Ron, and Hermione on this adventure. The game takes place decades before the events of the books, and for the first time ever, players will get to create their own witch or wizard, choose their house, and live out a single-player fantasy in an open-world Harry Potter-inspired game. What's got us most interested is the game's approach to combat. Modern action-based spellcasting seems to be at the center of one of the most in-depth systems we've ever seen in a Harry Potter game. Now, that's not saying much given the other games that are out there, but just the thought of casting a spell the way you would attack with a sword is tantalizing. What's also impressive is the world. Hogwarts has never looked so beautiful and fully realized, and the developers have already confirmed and shown off some of the surrounding world that players will have access to, including Hogsmeade Village and a number of underground tombs and crypts. While we don't have a full sense of the scope of the game, there's no doubt Hogwarts Legacy will be the most ambitious Harry Potter title to date, which is why it deserves a spot on our list. If you're into survival horror games, then look no further than Sons of the Forest, the sequel to End Night Games' first game, aptly named The Forest. Look, I'll be straight with you all. I am not good when it comes to horror games, but if you do your research and look at Steam reviews for the first game, you'll get a good enough read on the quality that game brought to the table. Sons of the Forest looks to be everything better and more, enhancing the survival aspects of the game while keeping the plot a mystery. Once again, you'll be dropped in an unknown location surrounded by hungry cannibals. The AI is getting a serious overhaul, and unlike the first game, the enemies in Sons of the Forest won't attack on sight, instead opting for stealth and ambush, just in case you wanted a little more horror in your horror games. If you're into resource gathering and crafting, this new game looks to build upon the forest as well. And while we haven't seen a whole lot of what's going on behind the scenes, it's safe to say the first game is, as a bare minimum, the baseline. And again, what a great baseline that is. One of the coolest new features coming to the sequel is changing weather. 4 seasons will provide unique opportunities as well as tough challenges, and they'll impact everything from the player to the cannibal AI that inhabit the world. Go alone or bring a friend in co-op for what I'm sure is going to be one of the most talked about games 2023. If you followed our channel for any stretch of time, then you know we're big fans of Assassin's Creed. The next entry in the series, Assassin's Creed Mirage, takes players back to the origins of that series, with an emphasis on stealth, story, and parkour. The game takes place in Baghdad a few decades before the events of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but don't get it twisted, the game couldn't be more different. For starters, Assassin's Creed Mirage will not be an RPG. At least that's not what it looks like. The team developing the game has said on record that they want Mirage to be a return to form, a smaller game inspired by the first game in the series, Assassin's Creed. If you're someone that's longed to hide in the shadows, run amongst the rooftop, and take out guards with the flick of a wrist, then look no further because Mirage has you covered. There's not a whole lot more to say at this point since Ubisoft only just revealed this game last month, but if my gut is right, and it usually is, Assassin's Creed Mirage may be the OG-like Assassin's Creed game the world has been waiting for. What many players have playfully dubbed as Minecraft 2.0, we know by its proper name, Hytale, a game we've long followed here on the channel. In fact, This game might be the very reason legacy gaming exists, as it brought myself and Livid together. Hytale has definitely undergone a transformation since it was first revealed back in 2018. The game, while ambitious in scope, was clearly even more adventurous than the developers had originally planned for. The game has faced a number of delays, but does now have the financial backing of Riot, which has allowed the team to expand exponentially. All that work behind the scenes has only made our excitement for Hytale even greater. The game is built around 3 central ideas: create, compete, and adventure. If you want to create incredible worlds with cutting-edge tools, Hytale will let you do that. If you want to compete in Minecraft-style minigames, Hytale will let you do that too. If you want to dive into the world of Orbis for a first-party RPG experience, you guessed it, Hytale will let you do that. If Minecraft is your only point of reference, then so be it, but realize that Hytale hopes to tap into so much more than Minecraft ever could, empowering players with the tools they use to design the game. Look, don't take our word for it. Like I said, we've been covering this game since the very beginning, but do yourself a favor and read up on the journey this team has been on. It's incredible. 2023 isn't a definitive date, but it's the earliest possible date identified by the devs for the game to finally hit the mainstream. I have no problem admitting I'm a relatively new convert to the Souls genre. Elden Ring completely transformed my experience with brutally hard action RPGs, and at this point, I'm just looking to sink my teeth into whatever that next big game is. Lies of P could be that game. Winning a number of awards throughout its showing in 2022, this dark fantasy Souls-like looks to be a game truly cut from the same cloth as a From Software masterpiece. In the game, you play as Pinocchio on a quest to find your father amidst a ransacked city now dominated by automatons. From what we've seen of the game, and let's be honest, the developers are not shy about showing off the title, it looks to be a solid interpretation of the genre. Some of the more recent additions, like jumping, are not present in this game, but the Lies of P creators are weaving in their own tricks like custom arm attachments that let the main character execute a number of crazy mechanics. Larger-than-life enemies, over-the-top weaponry, and labyrinth-style level layouts are all part of the equation here, and as many have said around the gaming world, this is a game worth keeping an eye on. Sometimes it's not just the AAA juggernauts that get us excited here on the channel. In fact, this next game, The Last Case of Benedict Fox, looks to be one of the most interesting titles of all 2023. Coined as a Metroidvania, I don't think I've seen a game that has captured my imagination like this since Ori and the Will of the Wisps, an absolute favorite game of ours here on the channel. You play as Benedict Fox, a self-proclaimed investigator bound to a demon companion. Together, you'll work to unravel the mysteries of a decrepit mansion, sift through the memories of those dead you meet along the way, all while trying to come to terms with your unique situation. Now, if the story doesn't win you over, perhaps the aesthetic or gameplay will. It certainly did for me. Hopefully you can see why I made the Ori reference, because Benedict Fox looks incredible. It doesn't have the exact same vibe, but that's a good thing because the blending of dark and vibrant atmospheres kept me wondering the entire time as it was revealed. Sadly, we don't know much more about this game, but that's often the case with these indie titles that fly under the radar. While the studio behind the game, Plot Twist, doesn't have a long and storied track record of delivering great games, this is definitely one of their best-looking titles to date. If you like story-driven Metroidvanias, then keep an eye on The Last Case of Benedict Fox. It's no secret that space is a popular playground to explore in video games, but some will argue that it's never been done quite right. Bethesda, makers of the Fallout games and Elder Scrolls, is looking to once again leave a huge impression in the industry with Starfield, a single-player RPG the developers are claiming will take players into the next generation. If you've ever played a Bethesda game before, then things will look and feel a bit familiar, with story-driven dialogue, an expansive world to explore, and a progression system that will define your journey in the game. One of the game's biggest selling points is its story and dialogue. In a recent video, Todd Howard, the executive producer and game director of Starfield, announced that there are currently 252,953 lines of dialogue in the game. Compare that to Skyrim's 60,000 and Fallout 4's 111,000, and yeah, they're leaning hard into the narrative with this game. Starfield itself also just looks cool, with a little something for everyone. If you want to customize and fly a spaceship, you can do that. Want a little FPS action? They've got that too. How about exploring exotic planets? The game's got about 1,000 of them, so they say. It's impressive from a scale and scope perspective, but also because it's the first new world that Bethesda has created in 25 years. That automatically carries some weight. Whether or not the company can pull off a game of this size, a game this ambitious, that's still to be determined, but it's hard to argue it's not one of the most anticipated titles 2023. Set to release in the new year, there's not much we actually know about this next game, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, but boy are we excited for this one. The game picks up 5 years after the events of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, and once again players will take control of Cal, one of the last remaining Jedi on the run from the Empire after making the choice to save Force-sensitive children, ultimately dooming the Jedi Order. The team behind the game, Respawn Entertainment, promises a much darker tone, hinting that Cal will become entangled with some less than savory characters to stay hidden. With so much going on in the world of Star Wars, talking specifically about all of their shows on Disney+, there's a lot of new material that the developers can pull from. It's just a matter of if they're actually going to connect those dots and if it's a natural fit. As far as gameplay, well, we haven't seen a lick of anything, but I have no doubt the team will double down on what players experienced in the first game, an almost Souls-like system filled with lightsabers, blaster fire, and of course, the Force. If I'm being honest, one of my most anticipated games of next year is a title called The Invincible. Some might call it a walking simulator in the same vein as Firewatch, but if story is your jam, then that's the genre you want. We've actually seen a decent amount of this game throughout the past couple of months, and it looks compelling to say the least. You play as an astrobiologist named Yasna, and your crew gets mixed up in some sort of space race, ultimately stranding you on the unexplored planet of Regis 3. You'll have to take things one step at a time as you piece together the mystery of your new world and find a way to navigate through its many challenges. The game also hints at choice during your adventure, choosing to interact or even ignore certain people and automatons you meet along the way in order to shape your adventure in a more beneficial way. Truth be told, I have no idea how that'll play out, but I'm intrigued nonetheless. What I truly hope for is a cross between Firewatch and Outer Wilds. The Invincible has a much different backdrop, that's true, but if the game can capture the essence of those two titles, I think it will make for an incredible experience. Now, I will be the first to admit, I have never been that into the Legend of Zelda games. I know I'm a disappointment, but it's just the truth. That being said, the series has stood the test of time, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom will, no doubt, draw massive numbers when it launches next year on May 12th. What we know right now is few and far between, but it's safe to say the world of Hyrule is in tatters. From the trailers and teasers that have been released, it's clear the action in Tears of the Kingdom will take place down on the ground and in the clouds above, almost creating two separate worlds that players will explore. Something bad has clearly happened to get us to that point, which I'm sure will play out in real time once players go hands-on with the game. While the title was called the Breath of the Wild sequel up until the official name reveal, it hasn't been confirmed whether or not the game is in fact a direct sequel. We assume so, but without direct confirmation from the developers, it's a bit of a gray area. In terms of gameplay, some new ideas such as a glider have already made an appearance in the trailers, and while not a groundbreaking concept, it does add some newness to the Legend of Zelda experience. May is still a decent ways off, so I have no doubt we'll learn much more about the flagship title ahead of launch. One relatively new game to our list is Atlas Fallen, a semi-open world action game by Deck 13. It's coined as a single-player or co-op adventure where players will confront an oppressive sun god that's taken over a new fantasy world. The action seems to be built around fluidity and stringing combos together, almost like a Devil May Cry or Darksiders type of experience, which, to be honest, is a nice change of pace from the Souls-like experiences that developers have been leaning heavily into the past few years. I'm not saying that's bad, it's just nice to see something a bit different. On the heels of Gamescom, it was confirmed that your fully customizable character will have access to a sort of gauntlet that you can use to manipulate sand and transform into various weapons. The world is split into a number of different regions, and while sand is the predominant theme, the developers have hinted that other areas will draw some sharp contrast in the world. I'll be honest, it's a hard one to really talk about at this point since the game hasn't revealed much, but it's an interesting enough pitch to keep us hooked into the new year. Blizzard is a shell of its former self. It's a subjective opinion, but it's one I feel in my bones after being such a devout fan of the company for the vast majority of the last 2 decades. That being said, Diablo 4 is still, without a doubt, one game that will draw a huge audience upon release. The battle between the high heavens and the burning hells rage on, and the chaos of a new evil, Lilith, threatens to consume Sanctuary. In some sense, the game is a return to form, with familiar classes like the Barbarian, Druid, Necromancer, Rogue, and Sorcerer already confirmed, but on the other hand, the game will have to forge new paths if it hopes to differentiate itself from the previous games. The team has already said character progression is at the heart of the experience, with both talent and skills playing a huge role in how the players define their character. The game will also feature in-game cinematics for the very first time, a new challenge for the developers, but an opportunity to tell a compelling Diablo story even more. As far as loot goes, the team is making a pretty big change, allowing items to scale with the difficulty of the content, meaning the hunt for better items is almost endless. The new approach also means less legendaries during the leveling process, more strategically dropping during the endgame. There's no doubt that Diablo is one of those series that really helped define the modern ARPG, and while some may have fallen off the bandwagon since the glory days of Diablo 2, this is Blizzard's chance to win back fans and create a brand new Gothic-inspired adventure. Before we get into the last entry on our list, I wanted to throw in a couple of honorable mentions, games that might come out in 2023 but still could slide later into 2024. We definitely saw that happen ad nauseum this year, so I would anticipate it happening again. First up for honorables, we have to give it to Arc Raiders. When the first trailer released, both Livid and I were like, yes, this is cool, and it's a great concept that we're hooked on. It's a third-person, free-to-play cooperative shooter that involves scavenging, gadgets, and giant robots, all set to this really interesting aesthetic and vibe that just felt different. It's a game to keep an eye on, and it could be a sleeper hit sometime next year. Of course, we can't forget about Black Myth Wukong. This game is being developed by Game Science Studio out of China, and is the company's first foray into what they call premium games. The game is based around the Chinese novel Journey to the West, and the gameplay showcases that we've seen look incredible. Players will take control of the Monkey King, or Sun Wukong, and what looks to be a very Dark Souls-inspired game. A lot more colorful, but still, I'm getting some serious Souls-like vibes, but that could only be part of the story. Most of what we've seen have been tech demos and some no UI gameplay, but we've also got a glimpse at some cutscenes and cinematics, which hint at a much richer story-driven experience, which could play well globally. We'll just have to wait and see. Finally, let's talk about Ark 2. The second installment in the massively popular survival game is set to try and redefine and take the survival genre into the new era. The game's Steam page makes some lofty claims and has already brought on some big-name actors and actresses to lend their talents to the game. Cross-platform modding, new traversal mechanics, Souls-like melee combat, a brand new world, component-based crafting, there is a lot on the table here, and since the survival genre has been a bit quiet as of late, I think the appetite will be there if Ark 2 manages to launch with little to no issues. It's a game I know we'll be jumping into if it releases in 2023. Rocksteady, the team behind many of the Batman Arkham titles, has been hard at work on their latest game, Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League. If you've seen the trailers, then you might already know what's going on here. The Justice League has been brainwashed by Brainiac, and the Suicide Squad is the only thing keeping Metropolis from total destruction. On the heels of the movies, I think there is a huge appetite for this game, and given that Rocksteady is behind the wheel, a team that knows how to make a damn good open-world superhero game, I think this could be one of the biggest titles of the new year. Deadshot, Harley Quinn, Captain Boomerang, and King Shark are all at the center of this adventure, but I wouldn't put it past the team to include even more of the extended team in the experience. What's clear, at least to me, is that the team is once again putting the player in control, giving them an arsenal of tools and tons of traversal options, and really trying to capture the fun, free-spirited, slightly off-kilter vibe of the Suicide Squad in this game. While Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League was slated for a 2022 release, it's been delayed into 2023, and while there still isn't a firm release date, I would bet money it comes out in the first or second quarter of the new year. So there you have it, 14 massive games, 14 opportunities for developers to leave their mark on the industry. Let us know what you think of our list, and of course, leave a comment down below and share your most anticipated game of the new year. While you're down there, do me a solid and consider hitting that thumbs up or even subscribing. It's still the single best way for folks like you to help out a channel like ours. Finally, if you'd like to help us reach our $10,000 Leave a Legacy charity goal, you can do so by donating on our brand new website, legacygaming.gg/charity. Help us share our passion for gaming with the incredible patients at Connecticut Children's. Every donation matters, so please help us leave a legacy. My name is Kodiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.